You've heard me say joint tenancy with no strings attached in the other videos in this series. Your title search will tell you who the registered owners on the title are, but there might be other people who have interest in this property that aren't registered on the title. If there's someone who isn't registered on title to the property who puts up their hand after the death of a loved one to say, hey, I have an interest in this property too, we call that having an unregistered interest. Here's a common scenario. A senior parent puts an adult child on title to the property as joint tenants with them to avoid probate or to make things simpler. The adult's expectation is that when that property is transferred into the name of their child as the surviving joint tenant, that child will share the property or the proceeds of sale from it with their siblings or the other beneficiaries of the estate when the parent has died. The adult child registered on title becomes the registered owner as surviving joint tenant, but they might be holding that property in trust for other siblings or beneficiaries. In reality, these arrangements rarely ever come with good documentation, so it's often very difficult to prove what the intentions were. Did the parent mean for the adult child who's on title to receive the property all by themselves? Was there an expectation that they would share that property with others? Did the adult child pay into the property or participate in the cost of maintenance in the property in any way? Without this documentation, it's entirely possible that the adult child who now owns this property all by themselves as the surviving joint tenant says, it's all mine, and nobody else gets to share in it. And now we're in a very messy he said, she said situation. There are all kinds of cases now dealing with this particular problem, and the basic assumption at law is that if an adult parent adds a grown child on title to the property for no money, in other words, the adult child didn't buy into the property, then the adult parent must have intended the property to have been held by the child for the beneficiaries of their estate. If you find yourself in this particular kind of situation, then you will need to hire specialty lawyers called litigators who deal with these matters after a person has died. So just because the title search shows names on the title as joint tenants with the deceased person, that doesn't mean that those people are the only people who are going to have a potential interest in the property. So when I say joint tenancy with no strings attached, I mean what we call a true joint tenancy, where if one person dies, everyone expects that property to be then owned by the surviving joint tenant or tenants with no other people who are going to claim an unregistered interest in that property.